Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. Well, we have a new apostle. If you missed it, I did a live stream last night. You don't need to go watch that. This will be more thorough, what you're watching right now. But if you missed the live stream, I don't know if you know, but there's a notification bell. So say that we're looking at Explore Church sites. Say that you're already subscribed. You click on this and then change it to all. And then you'll get notifications for whenever I put stuff out. And hopefully it'll help with you catching live streams if you've missed them. So this was the first article that I saw after I got the first text letting me know that we have a new apostle. This is the Salt Lake Tribune. LDS Church names a new apostle. Hint, he knows a lot about the faith's money. Now, I think that this is highly significant. As I'm about to show you, I feel like he's actually, so by the way, so it is now Elder Gérald Caussé. He's been on my radar already on my channel because he has said some stuff in regards to money and the second coming. In the live stream, we talked about the fact that this new first presidency with these two attorneys, President Oakes and President Christopherson, that was already eyebrow raising to me when I found that out. But now we have the new apostle, and he's intimately familiar with church finances because he was the presiding bishop. Just hold on. There's so much. There's so much to talk about. This is a really exciting video for me. Okay, so let's just go through my highlights. Born in Bordeaux, I think that's how that's pronounced. The 62-year-old Caussé was the church's 15th presiding bishop in charge of shepherding the church's real estate, financial, investment, and humanitarian operations since October 2015. Okay, I'm mostly focusing on this phrase right here, real estate, because I'm thinking about things that the church is going to build in the lead up to the second coming. Let's not go into the, how does prophecy have to play out? Let's just say that certain things need to be built. For example, the purchase of the temple lot, the building of the temple on the temple lot, possibly building the 24 temple complex, or even just things like building the far west temple, even though that's not part of prophecy per se. It makes me think of something that was said after the purchase of the Kirtland temple. This is a Fireside. This is Carl R. Anderson. He's a historian, and I guess he's like specialized in the history of the Kirtland era of church history. And in his opinion, if you go to the 5-minute and 19-second mark, he says that the purchase of the Kirtland temple is going to result, or it's as a result of an acceleration, the building up of the kingdom and the coming of the Savior. And I think he's right. So whether it's a special temple, independence, Adam on Diamond, or whether it's like some other big thing, just stuff that has to happen, I think that it's significant. Okay, continuing. Caussé has also been the point man on the church's vast financial holdings, which have made headlines in recent years. We're actually going to look into that in just a minute. Okay, quote. This is Elder Caussé. We have a vision of the church that is, can I use the word grandiose? Caussé told the Wall Street Journal in 2023, because we believe the gospel has to be taken to all the world. And so we see the size of the church with 17.5 million members, multiple times what it is now in the future. That's an exciting statement. I should actually put that on my quotes second coming spreadsheet. I think I'll do that. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Multiple times what it is now in the future. Yeah, absolutely. Again, President Nelson, his first year as president of the church, in a social media post, he said, we're just at the point of exponential growth. And indeed, Uh, over the last, 12, 24 months, we have seen record-breaking numbers of people joining the church. Something is going on. And church leadership just keeps talking about the hastening. So, okay, let's go to the Wikipedia page. I just want to point out, it says he has been a general authority of the LDS Church since 2008 and was the first ever appointed from France. Okay, I think that this is interesting too, because we have now yet another international apostle, or an apostle that represents a certain country. We'll talk more about that in a second later. He has a master's degree in business from ESSEC Business School. He worked as a strategy consultant and later served as general manager. Okay, so that's some of his background. I've added him to my spreadsheet called Prophets, Apostles. And by my count, well, I'm not going to go into that, but by my count, he's the 112th apostle, if you include Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery. If you're just looking at apostles after that, then he would be the 110th, but I'm considering him the 112th. I've added a new column right here so we can more easily see which countries these different apostles are from. Like I said in the live stream, I remember Elder Uchtdorf making news because somebody like the Salt Lake Tribune, or maybe somebody else, pointed out that he was the first apostle that doesn't have an Anglo-Saxon background. Not that that's bad, of course. I myself have Anglo-Saxon ancestry. It seems like there's like this big attack on Anglo-Saxons actually, but somebody pointed that, I don't know if that's actually true, but I think that it probably is. But at least in recent times, this stands out, the fact that he's from Germany. We have Elder Renland, who is American, but he keeps talking about his Finnish ancestry. And I think in the chat, in the live stream, somebody said that he actually lived in Finland for a little bit, I think. We have Elder Gong, who is of Chinese ancestry, at least partly. We have Elder Suarez, who's from Brazil. We have Elder Patrick Kieran from the UK. And now we have Elder Caussé from France. So do you see a pattern, or do you see a trend in recent times? And I think that's going to continue. I think it's a sign of the times. For these like 200 years, the church has been led by apostles, mostly from, American/British ancestry. But now things are starting to hasten, and there's more and more talk of this being a truly global church. So it just makes sense. And while we're here, I want to point out that he was called and ordained in between general conferences, which is not typically the case. It's interesting that that's what happened with Elder Kieran. Because of Elder Kieran, I think it was when Elder Kieran was called, I made these two columns here, called and ordained. So if it's in green, it means that it happened during April General Conference, because green, like spring, and then orange for October General Conference. So just pay attention to these like white cells right here. So the last time that this happened before Elder Kieran was actually with President Holland back in 1994. And then before that, Elder Maxwell, before that, Haight, Ashton. And then before Elder Ashton, you have to go all the way back to 1919 with Elder Melvin J. Ballard. So it's more on the unusual side if somebody is called and ordained between general conferences. I don't know if this is a trend, or I don't know if there's like a need right now. It's like, no, we can't go that long without, we need all hands on deck. Is it something like that? I don't know. I have no idea. But that's what's been going on. So let's take note of that. And while we're talking about Elder Kieran, I want to point this out. I did a video about this all the way back in 2023. So a month before Elder Kieran was called, there was a storm. It wasn't quite like a typhoon, hurricane, cyclone, but it was a powerful storm called Kieran. Yes, this is pronounced Kieran. And I found that out because I was pronouncing it the wrong way and somebody corrected me, and I found out it's like an Irish name. And so I was really, that the name stood out to me. And then when the next month Elder Kieran with different spelling was called, I was like, what? So Storm Kieran impacted northwestern Europe and killed 21 people, 11 of whom were in Italy and 4 in France. 1.2 million French households were left without electricity. And then, as you can see here, it also affected the UK. It caused damage there. I had it on my old Google Earth on my other computer, but it's just interesting that Storm Kieran, it impacted the UK. The next month, Elder Kieran is ordained. And now in 2025, you have Storm Kieran that also impacted France in 2023. And now in 2025, we have a French apostle right after that, right after Elder Kieran. So, okay, let's go to the church's website, newsroom. This is where they put out their announcement. Apostles are special witnesses of the name of Christ throughout the world. They also engage in significant administrative responsibilities, overseeing the operation and development of a global church. Right? So yeah, it's probably useful to have somebody who has been involved in church finances the way that Elder Caussé has been. And also with it becoming a global church or a more global church, having him be from France. Later on, the presiding bishopric manages such matters as humanitarian aid, welfare programs, tithing and fast offerings, physical facilities like temples or future other projects, and the organization of membership records, among others. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Part of Elder Caussé's ministry as a general authority has been to the rising generation. In August 2025, for example, he reminded young adults that the work of the gathering of Israel is the most important thing taking place today. And as Latter-day Saints, they are called to be part of it. Quote, "The church needs you, not in spite of who you are, but because of who you are," Elder Caussé said. "Each of you brings unique gifts and life experiences that are essential to fulfilling the Lord's purposes." Now, this, of course, mirrors what President Nelson focused on during his presidency. The rising generation, he called them the Lord's Youth Battalion, and he was all about gathering scattered Israel in preparation for the second coming. And President Nelson continually emphasized that this group of youth are special, that they were reserved for this time. And that's true for all of us, of course, in this dispensation, but especially now, because it feels like everything is at a fever pitch as far as hastening and preparing for the second coming. So anyway, Elder Caussé has talked about this as well. Let's go to my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. This is currently row 384. Money, second coming. Before I read this quote from Elder Caussé, let's go back. I'm not going to read these, but let's go back and think about President Lorenzo Snow. There's the famous story of him receiving revelation in St. George about the church paying tithing, because back then the church was in bad shape financially. And it turns out, as I found out just within the last few months, as he was placing this emphasis on tithing, just shortly after that, that's when the church was able to purchase the land here in Independence, Missouri, the land that the Independence Visitor Center sits on. We know that the Visitor Center, which was built in the I think it was in the 70s, We know that the visitor center was built to become one of the 24 temples of the 24 temple complex. It's being used as a visitor center, but that's its future destiny. And the church, because it seems like the plan still is to build the city the way that Joseph Smith planned it, which was through Revelation, where you have 2 blocks. Each block has 24 temples. And so we would need not just the temple lot, but also the land that the community of Christ sits on with the temple and the auditorium. And also the land that we already have. Some of that land was purchased because of tithing, and I would say because of the revelation given to President Lorenzo Snow. So here we are in 2025, and I don't know how things are going to play out, but if that temple does absolutely have to be built, the primary temple on the temple lot, then I'm thinking that money might become important, as well as the surrounding land. Okay, so here we have, at the time, Bishop Gérald Caussé, presiding bishop. This is in a newsroom article, March 2nd, 2018. In other words, President Nelson's first year as president of the church. The name of the article is In the Lord's Way, the Spiritual Foundations of Church Financial Self-Reliance. Today's church members are conscious of the fact that they live in a period of calamities caused both by human actions and the furies of nature. The prophecies about the last days are unequivocal, and there is great wisdom in preparing for the future, whether it be for possible famine, disaster, financial depression, or other unforeseen adverse circumstances. As it was during that remarkable pioneer era, church leaders have frequently counseled members to practice provident living by establishing home storage, including extra water, basic food items, medications, clothing, and other supplies that could be needed in case of emergency. Members have also been counseled to gradually build a financial reserve by regularly saving a portion of their income. This same principle of temporal preparation has also been applied at the general church level. For example, grain silos and warehouses fill the basic emergency necessities have been established throughout North America. The church also methodically follows the practice of setting aside a portion of its revenues each year to prepare for any possible future needs. So he referenced prophecies of the last days and named some of the things that we already have faced and I'm sure will face in the future. So it's really interesting. These are second coming things. Again, he said prophecies. He didn't just say, natural disasters are increasing and the church wants to help with that. No, he said prophecies about the last days. And then we have this from the Washington Post. Mormon Church has misled members on $100 billion tax-exempt investment fund, whistleblower alleges. December 17th, 2019. In a speech in March 2018, Caussé linked the church's financial strategy to the quote-unquote prophecies about the last days. Just as the church maintains grain silos and emergency warehouses, Caussé said, so it also, quote, also methodically follows the practice of setting aside a portion of its revenues each year to prepare for any possible future needs, end quote. According to the complaint, Ensign's president, Roger Clark, has told others that the amassed funds would be used in the event of the second coming of Christ. Clark did not respond to an email seeking comment. Nielsen's complaint is sharply critical of church leaders for continuing to ask for tithes, even from members who are struggling financially, while the church sits on a fortune. Quote, would you pay tithing instead of water, electricity, or feeding your family if you knew that it would sit around by the billions until the second coming of Christ? End quote. He wrote in a 74-page narrative that accompanied his complaint. And the answer is yes, Nielsen, because the church has a welfare program. And this is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So crazy idea. We may be looking forward to the second coming as a religion. It might kind of be a priority to us because it's in the name of the church. Okay, and then, let's see, we have this. This is Church News, the 23rd of May, 2025. This was really interesting. So this was, several months ago. Relatively new. Additions to gospel topics and questions discuss financial administration, temples, and peacemaking. So we're going to go to the actual article on the church website, but I want to read this first. According to the news release, presiding Bishop Gérald Caussé said that, quote, as we strive to fulfill the church's 4 divine missions, we recognize the sacred stewardship we have to responsibly use donations from our members. He added, donations in the church financial reserves are used with prayerful consideration to best accomplish these eternal purposes and bless the lives of God's children everywhere. Okay, so this is what was added to gospel topics and questions. There's this relatively new entry called How the Church Uses Donations and Financial Reserves. And it goes through the 4 things that he was just talking about, but we're going to focus on number 4 and then what it says after number 4. Okay. Number 4, the church helps unite families for eternity. Building and operating temples. The church teaches that families can be together forever. In sacred temples, priesthood authority is used to unite families eternally and help members draw closer to the Savior by making commitments to follow his example and teachings. Jesus Christ promised, I will hasten my work in its time. From Doctrine and Covenants 88, verse 73. Section 88 is one of the 2 big Second Coming sections in Doctrine and Covenants. This hastening is clearly seen in the pace at which the church is now building temples. Over 360 temples are in operation, under construction, or announced. The cost of such temples reflects an unprecedented and monumental dedication of financial resources by the church. Church members' faithfulness in living God's law of tithing, along with the church's wise financial management, help the church fully participate in this hastening. And by the way, in President Nelson's big Second Coming talk from October 2022, he said that temples have everything to do with preparing a people who will prepare the world for the Second Coming. Okay, now we're going to go to this section called Wise Stewardship of Church Funds. Engagement, and by the way, we're reading this in the context of this new apostle, Elder Caussé, and how he was overseeing all this. He was the presiding bishop when this was put out. We just read from the newsroom, was this newsroom? No, the church news article where he commented on this. Okay. So let's think about this as we have this new apostle and what this implies about the future of the church and his service as an apostle. And then the 2 attorneys that are in the first presidency. Engagement in God's work of salvation and exaltation by members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints strengthens faith in Jesus Christ, brings purpose, joy, and peace, and helps prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord. Church members believe the church is the kingdom of God on the earth, and the Lord has directed that we, quote, be prepared for the days to come, in which the Son of Man shall come down in heaven, clothed in the brightness of his glory, to meet the kingdom of God, which is set up on the earth. Doctrine and Covenants 65, verse 5. Now listen to this. Listen to this as we think about Elder Caussé and his future as an apostle. And what the church might be thinking right now in terms of money and the second coming. This preparation will require many more missionaries, meeting houses, and temples, as well as greatly expanded family history resources. These activities tend to be resource consuming, not resource producing. Under the Lord's direction, church leaders have prepared and continue to prepare the church not only to address current church needs around the globe, but also for its prophesied future, including preparation for the declared calamities that are sure to come. It's just so fascinating. You don't see this, I don't think, with other churches, not that I have seen. Our church is serious about the second coming, and you can see that because of all the money that they have prepared for it. Okay, continuing. Well, actually, you know what? This is kind of a repeat. You can pause and read this. I want to do one more thing and then finish up. So I went to the scripture citation index and I narrowed it down to talks by Elder Caussé. And I did a search for second coming. It didn't pull up anything. I did a search for the word return, and it did. And what I'm about to read you is fascinating. We're going to go to the church website for this. So this is a talk called Ye Are No More Strangers, October 2013 General Conference. Okay, look. Most of us at one time or another have been in a situation that was new to us, where we felt strange and insecure. This situation happened to our family about 5 years ago after President Thomas S. Monson extended the call to me to serve as a general authority of the church. Let me just pause right here really quick. Do you remember President Eyring's talk? Sorry, I'm just thinking about this right now, so I don't have it pulled up. But he talked about how when he was first married, they moved in to a guest home on his in-laws' property, and it was like a perfect situation. But he was counseled to live in such a way that he could easily walk away, right? And at that time, it was toward the beginning of my channel, I was like really thinking about the quickening, how at some point we're going to be taken up, we're going to be caught up. I don't know if it's just going to be by surprise, but I was thinking about that back in like 2021, 2022. But as we think about this, the second coming, a lot of things are going to change, especially at the beginning of the millennium. There's going to be a sizable portion of Earth's population that's no longer going to be here. And I don't know how many that's going to be, but it's probably going to be in the billions. It's probably going to be at least 25 to 50%, I would imagine, if not more. I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of things I think we're going to be called to step up and do in the aftermath of that, as well as the influx of members that are going to join, or people that are going to join the church, the converts, right after the second coming. That's what we've heard from general authorities, that there's going to be an influx. So anyway, this is kind of perfect for, like, what he's saying right here is perfect for in the context of the second coming. And then he goes on to talk about the second coming. Okay. This call necessitated our family's move from the beautiful place we had enjoyed for more than 2 decades. My wife and I still remember the instant reaction of our children when they learned about the change. Our 16-year-old son exclaimed, "It is not a problem at all. You may go, I will stay." He then quickly resolved to accompany us and faithfully embraced this new opportunity in his life. Living in new environments over the past few years has turned out to be an enjoyable learning experience for our family, especially due to the warm reception and goodness of the Latter-day Saints. I can relate to this, you guys, because I never thought that I would leave Utah, but then we did back in 2011. I changed my career path. I joined the Army. Afterwards, I became self-employed as a graphic designer. And with each step, every time that we moved, whether it was from Utah to Arizona to Texas, back to Arizona, we never intended to keep moving. We just wanted to stay put. But if I had not been brought first to Kansas and now to Missouri, I don't think that my channel would have the same effect. And I definitely I would not have had the same opportunities that I've had, especially with my other channel called Explore Church Sites, because I'm going at it hardcore, trying to find all these Missouri and, well, not just Missouri, but Midwest church sites. And I think that it's important that I do. My Christian Homestead channel, I definitely think that it's helping prepare people for the second coming. It's helping to hopefully give you motivation. It's really easy to get demotivated or unmotivated, or for people to take that away from you. People that want to criticize your belief in the second coming or downplay things that you think are signs. I hope that I've been able to motivate you and validate you, and also find new evidences that it is happening soon, and helping us to pay attention to the living prophet and apostles, as well as read the scriptures and just try and see the big picture. So in other words, I had to leave Utah. I think I to effectively do what I'm doing, I had to leave not just Utah, but the Southwest, and come to the Midwest, a place that was just alien to me. Like, truly, like it felt uncomfortable at first. Like, psychologically, I was like, oh my gosh, I do not belong there. But now I do. And just like Elder Caussé and his family, this has turned out to be a really special and enjoyable experience. And for me, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave here, but only time will tell. All right, continuing. As we have lived in different countries, we have come to appreciate that the unity of the people of God throughout the earth is something real and tangible. Okay, so now we're starting to talk about the global church, you guys. And think about how this video started out, talking about the fact that he himself becoming an apostle seems to represent that. Seems to represent the global church. And here he is talking about it back in 2013. He says, "My calling has led me to travel to many countries and has given me the choice privilege to preside in many meetings. As I look out over various congregations, I often see members representing many countries, languages, and cultures. One marvelous aspect of our gospel dispensation is that it is not limited to a geographical area or a group of nations. It is global and universal. It is preparing for the glorious return of the Son of God by gathering his children from the four quarters of the earth." So here it is. We just talked about how, he's talked about the church and the second coming because of church finances and what church finances is preparing, or part of what the church is preparing for with its money. But here we have him talking about the church becoming a global church, and that being preparation for the second coming. So you see why I think that he is possibly a very uniquely second coming apostle. You see where I'm getting at, and why I think that this is exciting in a second coming sense, that he is now an apostle. Okay, continuing. Though the membership of the church is increasing in its diversity, our sacred heritage transcends our differences. As members of the church, we are admitted into the house of Israel. We become brothers and sisters, equal heirs to the same spiritual lineage. God promised Abraham that as many as receive this gospel shall be called after his name, and shall be accounted his seed, and shall rise up and bless him as their father. He goes on to talk about how it's important to accept people and to welcome people to church, and not view others as strangers, and make them feel welcome. And I have the feeling that's going to become increasingly important in the days ahead, both before the second coming and then definitely after, when there's a large influx. So these are my initial thoughts and observations about this new apostle. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited about this new presidency of President Oaks. I think big things are on the horizon, and that's why we're seeing these moves. I think it's going to be stunning. I really do. So I'm going to be here to do my best to try and document it. When you notice things, please send me emails, or put stuff in the comments. I can't get to everybody's messages, but if you don't mind, if it doesn't take you too much time, just shoot me an email. If you see something, say something, and I'll try and keep on top of this. We're living in an exciting time, and I have a testimony that the prophet and the apostles are who they say they are, and that Elder Caussé is a true apostle of Jesus Christ and a special witness. He is a prophet, seer, and revelator, and I think that he's going to be a very valuable addition to the Quorum of the 12. Okay, that's going to be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.